Hello there, friends, family, random listeners. My name is Tim Giorso, and you are listening to Topics with Tim, my own very special podcast where I pick a topic, whether it's sports, whether it's health. Those are typically the two things I like most, sports and health. Or even just something random, taxes or whatever. I always like to learn new things. I'm always looking to learn new things. And I want to share this with you guys. I want to talk about them and just give you these different topics that I am learning about. On this particular episode of Topics with Tim, this one is I'm gonna have to open up here a little bit to you guys. I'm gonna be sharing some things that I wouldn't normally share with just anybody. Things near and dear to my heart, experiences that I've had that have been really hard and really difficult to go through. And I've come out the other end a better man, a better person, and happier. So, anyway, this Topics with Tim, I'm titling this one, How Your Body Can Heal Itself. Now, we live in a system that is a capitalist system. And I honestly, for the most part, think the capitalist system is a great system. I'd much rather have a capitalist system than a communist system, than a socialist system. It does promote a lot of good things, and it promotes people to work hard and invent new things and keep creating. Human ingenuity is incredible. On Instagram, there's this page called 5 Minute Crafts and Tutorial Inspirations. And every time I watch them, I'm just amazed by the ingenuity of humans, how we problem solve, how we are able to come up with, like, they'll do a tutorial or a little solution on how to use old sweaters. And it shows this person like turning this old sweater into a handbag or turning it into a towel or turning it into this. And I'm watching this just going, man, humans are incredible. Like, our ability to problem solve, our ability to be creative and to come up with these different things is amazing. Now, every system is not without its flaws. And one of the flaws that I believe exists in our capitalist system is overconsumption and overconsumption of things that we don't actually need. Because here's the situation. I live in a capitalist system. I want to make some money. How do I do that? Well, I invent something. Maybe I start a company to provide a service to you, or I invent something that can make your life easier. Now it's up to me to market it to you, because if I can get you to use my service every day or get you to use my product every day, I'm going to become a very, very rich man. So it kind of promotes this promoting, I'm going to promote something to you and market something to you that maybe you don't actually need. Maybe you could do fine without it, but if I can convince you that you need it, you're going to buy it. You're going to buy it every day, and I'm going to make bank. Okay, and again, there's pros to the system because people are always looking for new inventions and new services that some of them are amazing. Like, for example, I used to work valet, and they now do valet as a service for hospitals. And it's honestly, I mean, for the valets, it kind of sucks because we're dealing with a lot of people who are very emotional, going to the hospital, very unhappy. But for the people, it's amazing because you get these people 80, 90 years old who don't have to search around for parking 4 floors up. They can come over, valet their car, get out their walkers, wheelchairs, head in, head out. It's honestly, it's a great system, and that was something where they came up with the service of valet, how they can make your life a little easier, found a way to implement it, found a way to make money off it, and it's benefiting people. So there's two sides to every story. But what I want to share with you a little bit is kind of my story and some of the things that I do and don't do on a regular basis to, because I've done a lot of research and trying to figure out what do I actually need. What and specifically, not, I'm not going to look at too much of like, okay, do you need this shirt, blah blah. I'm more looking at the body specifically. Like, what do our bodies actually need to perform optimally, to fight disease, to avoid sickness, to look good, to be able to perform at sports and at your job, mentally, physically. What do we really need? Are we getting too much of what we don't need? And that's what I'm going to bring up with you guys today. Before I go into that too much, though, I kind of want to give you just a quick background on my story and how I ended up kind of getting into this holistic health, natural thing that I'm in. A lot of people make fun of me. They call me a hippie because I'm very much an all natural person. I'm looking to how can I promote my body's own ability to heal itself in different ways, or mentally to heal itself in different ways, before having to go to drugs. And those things have their places and have their uses, but what I'm going to try and convince you of today is that your body can actually heal itself in a lot more ways than you think it can, and there's a lot of stuff that you're maybe spending your money on or using that you don't actually need. Okay. Now, the reason I got into this so much was when I was about 22 years old, I had my very first panic attack. And for those of you who've had panic attacks, you know what I'm describing. It was a moment where it almost felt like something in my mind just snapped or broke. And I was just overwhelmed with all these thoughts and emotions. And I couldn't control my breathing. I was hyperventilating. I couldn't breathe properly. I was freaking out. I didn't know what was happening to me. And that was the one of many. So after that day, I started having more and more frequent panic attacks. And again, I have no background on learning about anxiety or depression or really any sort of insight on the mind or the body. I'm your typical 22-year-old kid who likes to play sports and eats whatever and, you know, whatever, right? So what happened was I had more and more frequent panic attacks to the point where I developed something called agoraphobia, which is the fear of panic attacks. And it's essentially fear of fear that feeds on itself in this endless loop. And so I would be basically in a constant state of panic most of the day. If I wasn't having a panic attack, I was worried about having a panic attack. And I was miserable. It was absolutely miserable. I would describe it as mental torture. When you're in a constant heightened state of alertness and panic, and the cortisol is just shooting through your body constantly, and you're basically feel as if you are in constant danger at all times. It is incredibly exhausting, and it's hell. And so things progressively got worse and worse. I wasn't able to work. I wasn't able to really function at all. I would either sleep 16 hours a day because I was afraid of being awake, because anytime I was awake and thinking, I was in fear and scared and dealing with constant anxiety. So sleeping was a relief for me. So I started sleeping as much as I possibly could, which is horrible for you because then you have even more issues from you develop, insomnia and all sorts of other issues from oversleeping. So I started getting into really addictive behaviors in order to cope with this constant anxiety. Basically, things went really downhill fast for me. I started developing a lot of depression because you just feel like you'll never get out of this state. You just get into hopeless thinking. And I became even suicidal. There were a lot of times where I would imagine different ways I would end my life because I was in constant torture 24/7. I used to be sitting there on the couch and I used to look at the clock and I couldn't wait till it got late to where I could go back to sleep. That was what I looked forward to every day. Like, when do I get to go back to sleep? When do I get to go back to sleep? Because just living and thinking was torture. And there's no escape from that. There was no escape for me. There was no, hey, if let's say at work I feel scared, but then I come home and I'm relaxed, right? There's just maybe one specific environment that's troubling, that's hard to go to. No, this was literally my mind. I was afraid to think. And I ended up being hospitalized because I told my parents about some of the suicidal things I was having, and I wanted to end my life because, again, I was in constant torture. And I ended up being hospitalized in a facility. That was a trip. Let me tell you, that was a trip. I wanted to get out of there so fast. I was like, Get me the F out of here. I will do whatever it takes. This sucks. Um, I could just go into that more another day. If you ever want to ask me about it, I'll tell you about it. Um, After I was hospitalized, I started going to group and individual therapy, and had that basically every day for a few months. And what I learned there was interesting, because a lot of people in there were not my age. Most people in there were probably 40s and up, and a lot of them have been dealing with depression and anxiety for a long, long time. And they almost told me, you will be happy that you're in here now, because it's easier, you being in your 20s, it's easier for you to change a lot of your mental and physical habits, whereas someone who's 40 is going to have a lot harder time working through depression, working through anxiety, making those changes than you will. So they're almost saying, be thankful. Be thankful you're in here now and not in here 30 years from now when shit hits the fan, and now you have, more responsibilities, more, maybe you have a family and things like that, that now you can't function. So that it was a really interesting experience, just seeing the people that were there. And a common thing I noticed too with a lot of the people there are people that just really cared. People that really cared about other people and cared about doing the right thing, but almost to a point where it was ruining them mentally, and just the pressure was insane. So I also took Prozac and a few other medications as well during that time to help cope with what I was experiencing. And basically, what it came down to was, I know I needed to make changes, and there's no greater motivator than necessity. And I learned that early on. And so basically, I had a choice to make. I could either live with what I'm experiencing, which was basically pure hell for about 2.5, 3 years, or start researching, start studying. How do I fight this? How do I make changes? How do I grow? How do I get out of this? Because this is not fun at all. And there's got to be a way. And so that's when I really started delving into research on food and nutrition, specifically just discovering, okay, well, maybe I can make some changes to my eating. Maybe I can eat different foods that would make me less anxious or more anxious. I started really getting big into nutrition. I started thinking more about mentally, meditation and prayer, and discovering, how am I thinking? Am I taking time to control my thinking? Am I taking time to, what am I thinking about? What am I believing about these different situations, about my own anxiety that's causing what's happening, and how do I make those changes? And it's been a crazy journey. I've gotten so much better over the last 3 years. It's been a very slow process. It hasn't been just an instant gratification type situation. It's been just a slow, every day going, okay, this is what happened today. This is what I experienced and dealt with today. Okay, what changes do I make for tomorrow? What needs to change for tomorrow? How can I think a little bit better tomorrow? How can I um, be a little bit better tomorrow? And just making little subtle changes here and there, and over time, being able to overcome what I've overcome. And I mean, a big part of that, honestly, I want to give credit, is my relationship with Jesus Christ, and just the truths in the Bible and the truths that exist in our world. And honestly, Jesus has been what has brought me out of that time and what has kept me going. There are times where I very much considered suicide, and I was very close to doing so. But what kept me was God, and just thinking about heaven, and will I, be able to go to heaven if I were to commit suicide, which is one of those interesting topics. And decided to continue to try to work through things and not give up. And I owe a lot of that to Jesus Christ and his truths that he and the wisdom that he's given me over these past 3 years, to show me the way, to show me how I can think and feel better, and how I can eat better, and how I can treat my body better, so that I can live an enjoyable life, and something that's fulfilling, and something that has purpose. So I can't acknowledge that enough right off the bat, that if you don't have Jesus, or don't have a faith belief system, it's really difficult to overcome anxiety and depression and things like that, because you got to find truth. Truth is what sets people free, and I feel like I've been set free because of the truths that Jesus talks about. But anyway, this isn't a sermon. I don't want to go into that. I want to just break down more the pure science of things, and I think that's where, honestly, Jesus, the Bible, science mesh together perfectly, like like peanut butter and jelly. I think people often think that, oh, well, science is on this end and God's on that end, or faith, any sort of faith system is on that end. But in reality, they mesh so much. And in this podcast, I'm just going to be breaking down the science of things, and I'm going to be breaking down my own trial and error with certain things. Okay, so it's not a sermon. Don't worry about that. But I mentioned before, that people often refer to me as a hippie, and there's some negative connotation to that. I'm not gonna lie. Hippies are kind of the connotation of them, of hippies is, they're lazy, or they're like, yo man, all about the earth, bro. Like, I'm just gonna, sit in the park and like meditate and not work. Like, okay, I'm not that much of a hippie, but a couple things that I've discovered as far as what my body needs and doesn't need. One thing that I've been doing this for about 2 to 3 years, where I actually don't use any product in my hair. I don't use shampoo, I don't use conditioner, I don't use occasionally I'll use some ice spiker gel or something if I'm going out and I want to spike my hair up a little bit. But other than that, I don't use any shampoo products, any conditioner products whatsoever. I wash my hair with water and I comb my hair a lot. And I have not experienced any ill effects from this whatsoever. My hair looks nice. My hair is fine. And this has been kind of I know a couple other people who do it as well. It's called the no poo movement. And essentially, this is what we go back to when I brought up at the beginning, is marketers want to say you need shampoo. You need to wash your hair every day with shampoo. You need to use conditioner, right? And they want to sell you on that. But the reality is, you don't. There's oils in your hair that actually take care of your hair. And you don't actually necessarily need shampoo or need conditioner. Really need to use it very often, because your body has a mechanism to kind of take care of itself in that regard. And when you do use shampoo and you do these things, you actually strip your body's natural oils that they produce, and your body stops producing those because they're just getting stripped over and over. So your body's like, okay, well, we're not going to put those oils in your hair anymore because you don't need them. You use shampoo every day. And it's not like shampoo is awful for you either. It's not terrible, but and so when you first go into the no poo movement and you don't use shampoo, your hair gets actually pretty greasy for about a week, or maybe a couple of days, because your body's like, you want us to work again? Okay, cool. Okay, we'll hook you up with some oils, and your body starts to produce oils in your hair again, and you comb them through. And now we'll say that I think this definitely works for any guys that I've talked to who've done the no poo movement. It works fine. But then again, we do have shorter hair and not as much hair. I don't have a lot of experience as far as girls doing the no poo movement and seeing if that works for them, because obviously you have more hair. So I will say that my evidence is sort of inconclusive on the girl standpoint, but give it a try, honestly, and see, because I never have to buy shampoo anymore. I haven't bought shampoo in 3 years, and my hair is fine. My hair looks great. Honestly, I love my hair. So again, it's an example of something that you may not really need, and you may be wasting money on, and maybe even harming your body, because a lot of times in these different shampoos, there's a lot of different chemicals and things that you don't really need, or may actually be harming your body. Another thing that I don't do, and this is probably going to freak some of you out, but I actually don't use soap. Yep, I do not use soap. I use special Norwex towels made of microfiber, and I use water, and I use the special Norwex towels that have the cool thing about Norwex towels, they have silver in them, and silver is a natural antibacterial. So I wash my body with these Norwex rags and water, and I haven't used soap in months. And I haven't noticed any ill effects from them from not using soap. If anything, it's actually because I used to have really chronic dry skin pretty much all the time. My skin was very itchy, especially around my hands. Um, and now I don't really have dry skin anymore. I honestly don't. Like my hands used to get so crackly and dry all the time, but not anymore. And what I discovered too was a lot of the soaps I was using actually dried my skin out and actually made my skin worse. And I have less acne breakouts as well. I don't experience um, as near. I used to have a lot of kind of acne on my back and stuff. I don't really have that anymore. So again, there's another thing where your soap uh, strips your body's own natural oils that it makes and has on your body. And again, your body will stop making those oils once you are consistently using soap and different things like that, and will stop. And so if you do stop using soap for a short time, your body will be a little greasier for a few days until your body kicks into making those oils again that it now knows that it needs. This is something again I would highly recommend you give it a try. Maybe it doesn't work for you, maybe it doesn't, but honestly, my dry skin isn't so dry anymore, and it's really nice. I will say this: I do occasionally use soap, but I only use soap that's minimal ingredient. So I have a friend of mine, Ben Fischel, shout out, who actually makes his own soap, and he uses only three ingredients: lye, coconut oil, and coffee grounds. And I'll use that usually if I ever have a sunburn, because 2 or 3 washes with that soap with a sunburn, sunburn's gone. I call it like the magic soap. Every time I see him, I'm like, Ben, you got to hook me up with some more of your magic soap, because I say goodbye to any sort of peeling of sunburns with that soap. It just a couple washes, boom, sunburn has already faded or already gone into a sort of mini tan. I can't really tan very well. I don't have the tanning gene. But again, and I'll say I usually only use that if I have a bad sunburn. But again, that's something that maybe you are spending a lot of money on soap. Maybe your skin is dry. Maybe you're experiencing some ill effects from that soap. A lot of soaps now have a lot of chemicals, a lot of extra things that your body doesn't need, and maybe even harming your body. And so I'd recommend giving the no soap a try. Just use water. I've even read things where because the only real reason you need to wash essentially is you have dead skin, right? That's clogs up your pores. Some hair, different. That's what creates dust. Is essentially like dead skin particles and hair and different things. That's what creates dust. And essentially, all you really need is to sort of unclog your pores from that. So I've even seen things where you just take like a brush and you just brush your body with like, and it doesn't even need to be something that's super abrasive, something actually pretty light, otherwise you'll harm your skin. A lot of people use like scrunchies and different things to scrape your skin. You actually don't need that. Your hands are actually just the right amount of friction for washing yourself and aren't super abrasive that's going to hurt your skin. So you don't really need to use scrunchies and different things to try and scrub really hard. You don't need that. All you need is a light scrub with your hands, or like I said, I use the Norwex towels, which are microfiber and really soft. So you might be wasting your money on scrunchies and different things to scrape your skin. Again, you don't really need that. You might be wasting your money on soap that maybe you don't really need, and maybe your skin would even be better without it. You might be wasting your money on shampoo, and again, your hair might be honestly better without it. Or you can use a lot cheaper natural stuff like coconut oils and different things like that without extra chemicals. So those are just 3 examples of 3 kind of I guess extremes that I go to with just allowing my body to take care of itself. You may not agree with me, but like I said, I found success with these, and I think that the research supports what I'm saying. So it's definitely something to look on your own. Another thing, toothpaste. Pretty common. People use Colgate, all those other toothpaste. But let me tell you, the only reason that toothpaste has even really become something that you need on a day-to-day basis, number one is diet. There's a lot of studies done of people who have a more diet rich in vegetables, fruits, and their teeth are just way better and cleaner and nicer. So really, when it comes to teeth, your diet is what keeps your teeth looking nice for the most part. Unfortunately, in our society today, we eat a lot of processed foods. We eat all sorts of sugars and stuff that's marketed to us that's, like I said, highly processed, high concentration of carbs, and high in sugars. And so our teeth are now suffering, and people have yellow teeth now. So number one to look at with you're trying to make your teeth whiter or cleaner is diet. Are you eating enough vegetables during your day, um, and a lack of excess sugar? And that can honestly benefit your teeth a lot. As far as toothpaste go, a lot of problems with today's toothpaste. They are loaded with chemicals. They're loaded with artificial sweeteners. A lot of toothpaste nowadays contains fluoride. Go look on your toothpaste. If it has fluoride, fluoride is actually toxic. It's actually legitimately toxic. And even a common dentist would warn you, don't swallow fluoride. It's literally toxic for your body. So again, why are we filling our mouths with toxic chemicals? Obviously it's it's supposed to help keep your teeth, from getting plaque and different things like that. But I think the evidence points to that it's really more harmful than it is helpful. And even just swallowing little bits at a time, you're swallowing something that's toxic, and you're it's not like your mouth doesn't absorb things into your bloodstream. Your body actually has a 90% absorption rate. And so things that are in your mouth, even if you don't swallow them, can still be absorbed into your bloodstream. So again, why are we putting something as toxic as fluoride into our mouths? Again, artificial sweeteners and colorings and all this added crap and stuff to make it foamier. And again, I don't use common toothpaste. I don't even brush my teeth every day, if I'm being honest, because I eat a pretty good diet with vegetables, and I limit my sweets as much as possible. Extremely difficult to do. I still struggle. Ice cream is my Achilles heel. But again, toothpaste is something that you might be spending your money on all this Colgate toothpaste, but you don't actually need it. And it's actually full of stuff that's actually harming you. Whereas you can literally make your own toothpaste at home using coconut oil, a little bit of baking soda, and a peppermint essential oil. And that could actually be better for your teeth and 10 times as cheap. I personally use activated charcoal with coconut oil and stuff mixed in. And like I said, I don't do it every day, but a few times a week I'll brush with the activated charcoal. And that's what I use. I've used baking soda as well and different things like that. And again, I save a lot of money not having to spend a lot of money on toothpaste. And honestly, I think my teeth look better and are nicer than they were using regular toothpaste. So again, that's something to research and look into. But maybe that toothpaste is doing more harm than it is good, and maybe it's not something that you really need every day. Another thing that I do that is, again, kind of not a common thing is fasting. This is a major one. I might even do a whole podcast on fasting one day. Now, people kind of freak out when you mention fasting for two reasons. One, people think that it's sort of this religious thing, right? Like, ooh, fasting, that's only for like weird religious people who like fast or whatever. Or, you know what I mean? It's sort of looked at in that light. Or people are afraid because they'll be like, well, if I don't eat, I'm going to die, or I'm going to my body's going to get weaker or whatever. And again, the research actually points to fasting being something that's actually amazing for your body, and I'm going to go into why. So essentially what happens when your body's in a fasting state, right, when you've burned all the glucose, because that's when you eat a carb or eat something, it usually turns into glucose and then is released in your bloodstream, and then you use it as energy. Anything that's left over is stored as fat that you don't use. Okay, and when all your carb fuel has been used up, all that's left in your body to use as fuel are fat and protein. Now, I used to think for a while that I shouldn't fast because I would start eating away at my muscle tissue and I wouldn't be able to maintain muscle mass. But I learned that's actually wrong, that actually when you're in a fasting state, your body turns to about 97% burning fat for fuel. And it burns other things other than the fats too. It burns scar tissue. Say you have scar tissue from a surgery or something, your body will actually turn that into fuel. And there are other different things in your body that your body will use as fuel. That's maybe there's a lot of people have a lot of visceral fat where their fat is built up around their organs. Your body will turn the visceral fat into fuel and start using that for fuel. It'll start using the regular fat that's just around your body for fuel. And essentially, your body actually burns most efficiently when burning fat, as opposed to burning carbs. What happens is if you eat a lot of carbs, a lot of sugar, Your body releases that really fast into your bloodstream, and then your insulin level shoots up in order to counteract that. And if you do that often enough, well, you get diabetes. You become resistant to the insulin. So what happens when you're burning fat, the fat actually releases only when you need it and at a much slower rate. It doesn't just dump it into your system all at once. And then if you don't use it all, store it. It'll just be like, oh, we're working. Okay, we're gonna release some. Oh, we're working. We're gonna release some. Right? It doesn't. So you're not storing extra fat anymore because your body's only releasing it when you need it. And a lot of people freak out thinking that fasting they're gonna die or something, but really your body again will burn all of its fat stores up before eating into your protein and your muscle tissue. And you could honestly last for months and months without food. And your body would adapt and it would burn different. Now, there would come to a point, obviously, where it would become unhealthy for you and you would become weak. So it's not something that I need to fast for a month straight every month, right? There are plenty of different ways to incorporate fasting into your daily routine. For example, I do what's called intermittent fasting, and that is where I keep all my meals between an 8-hour period each day. So that way my body is fasting for the other 16 hours a day, and that there are times when my glucose stores are all used up, and my body will transition into burning fat from my body. I found that I've been able to drop weight very quickly when using this technique. I'll drop 5 pounds in a week from using this. So those of you who are looking to lose weight, and not lose like good weight, but just lose fat weight, you can honestly lose weight fairly quickly as far as your fat weight using this, because your body is going to turn into that fat burning state instead of burning just carbs. Burns more efficiently. So I do that, and honestly, I love it. It helps me. Fasting can help you control your food cravings because there are hormones that are released into your brain when you're hungry, and when you fast, it is able to kind of adjust and only more release those when you're actually hungry now. So now there are times where I'm like, oh, I'm not even like that hungry anymore. Like I feel full, I feel satisfied because my hormones are working correctly as far as what's being signaled to my brain. Whereas if you overeat or eat a lot of sugar, a lot of carbs, your body is confused and will send signals that you're hungry when you're not actually hungry. And your body, because it dumps everything in your system so fast, you crash after. Your energy gets really high, but then dramatically decreases, and then you feel hungrier again sooner and more wanting the carbs, craving the carbs and the sugar. So I could go into a whole thing about fasting, but so many benefits. Your gut bacteria get a lot healthier and a lot better because you're starving out gut bacteria that are unhealthy, that are contributing to cravings of sweets and things like that. There's other ways to fast too. There's sometimes 2-a-day fasting where you fast for 2 days, you eat for 5. Or just even on those 2 days where you're fasting, you're actually not fasting the whole day. You might just be having a less calorie intake. So maybe on those 2 days, I only have 500 calories a day those 2 days. The other days I have regular days. And essentially, again, what you're doing is you're just allowing your body to transition into a ketogenic state, which is it's burning fat as its primary fuel. And that's what is going to burn most efficiently. So there's actually fasting centers in both Germany and Russia that people actually go to and pay money to go to fasting centers to actually be cured of a lot of diseases. Because in that state of fasting, your body is able to take all the energy away from breaking down foods and can start focusing on healing and correcting different things in your body, flushing out toxins that it can't do when you're constantly eating. And I was actually just watching a documentary on these fasting centers in Russia and in Germany, and these people, tens of thousands of patients, actually paying to go to a place where they're fasting. Now there's doctors that looked after each people and do daily things because sometimes fasting can be a little bit dangerous for someone who doesn't know what they're doing. It's not something to just jump right into. And they would monitor them and they would make sure that they're exercising daily and giving them activities to do to kind of take the mind off of hunger. But what they found is usually the first 3 days are really difficult, that things will almost actually get worse those first 3 days. But then once your body transitions into the ketogenic state and it can focus on healing other areas of your body, you feel fine. You feel the same as if you were eating. And you feel honestly better. And a lot of these diseases are cured, allowing your body to heal itself. So again, in our society today, it's every ad is an ad for Taco Bell or McDonald's or Burger King, and just eat, 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 eat. We have to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But you don't. You don't need to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You really don't. You could have one meal a day and be fine. I think my brother was telling me about this guy from India who was visiting the United States, and he was used to having one meal a day. And over here, he's like, wait, what? Everyone has to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Like, this is odd. Like, where I come from, we have one meal a day, and we're fine, and maybe even healthier, honestly. Less obesity rate and other things. So this idea that we've been programmed with since birth, that we eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, isn't really true. Isn't really something that's necessity. You could, I know a lot of nutritionists that I follow that I really enjoy who will do 3 to 5 day fasts once a month, and they love it. Saves them a bunch of money on food. Their body is healthier and allowed to recuperate and to rest and to heal itself. Their hunger cravings are less when they come back to eating, and they're usually eating healthier. Now, I'm not that crazy. I still haven't been able to. I have done a few fasts, 3 to 5 day fasts, and I've honestly enjoyed what. So one example, I had staph infection all over my arm. It was spreading all over my arm. I had these like red dots that would open and ooze and pour, and I tried everything. I tried the doctor stuff. I tried um, all these different lotions and powders and everything. And that's when I started researching fasting a little bit more, and actually fasted. I did about a 4 day fast, and my staph went away. It actually started. Because what I learned was that with a bacterial infection, you actually it actually feeds off of the glucose and things like that. Will actually feed on it, and the way to overcome a bacterial infection is actually to fast it, because you're actually going to starve that bacteria from being able to have anything to feed on and grow. That's different from a virus. A virus is different. Okay, a virus like a cold or a fever, that's something where it's recommended that you do continue to eat, because your body does need that fuel to fight off the virus. But a bacterial infection is different, and you actually want to starve the body and starve the bacteria. And that's what I did with my staph infection, and it went away from fasting. I've heard many other stories of people overcoming different illnesses, diabetes being cured because your body is allowed a couple weeks to, again, readjust the insulin and thyroid system that's been broken by the excess glucose that's getting dumped into the system, and able to heal. And again, that's what again, this is another thing where you're probably eating more food than you need, and fasting can help cure a lot of things and can take away a lot of things that you don't need. And I think it has benefits for skin and other things as well. Um, it also has mental benefits, I've found too, where there are times where I'm having a lot of anxiety, and because I still struggle with it, despite the fact that I feel like I'm in a much better place than I was. It's still something that I have to watch over. I know I am prone to and battle, and I'll notice that fasting actually really reduces my anxiety level, and really is able to calm the mind and put you in a more relaxed state. Um, and there's a reason why the Bible and these different religions use fasting, because it's scientifically backed, because it's healthy for your body. So I would recommend anybody to make fasting a part of your daily life. And it's actually a small dream of mine now to open my own fasting center here in the United States, where I feel like it's more needed than anywhere else. And that it would help cure a lot of obesity and a lot of issues that we are now going fully over to modern medicine to treat. And a lot of times modern medicine just creates more issues that you have to take more pills for. And it's a sad system we have as far as our healthcare system, and what's incentivized, and how much money are being made off these different medications and pills. And I would argue and I would advise you that a lot of these things you don't need. Now, I'm not saying stop taking your medicine right away. Okay, be smart about it. Do your research. Talk to your doctor. Try to adjust here and there. If you're someone who's maybe on diabetes medication, maybe look to wean off of that and see if maybe try fasting. Look at those fasting centers in Germany and Russia. Maybe there's some in the United States I don't even know about. Look to try and get off those things. Now, some people might not be able to, and I'm speaking so general right now because there are a lot of specific situations where people need to take the drugs and they need to not stop because that would be very bad for them. But I think there are a lot of cases where people are taking drugs where they're not needed, and they could, through using various methods that I'm talking about here, about fasting and about what you eat and different ways, can actually be able to stop and wean off those drugs. So don't go crazy and like jump off your drugs. Talk to your doctor, research, be smart about it. I would recommend Dr. Mercola is a nutritionist that I follow and read a lot of his stuff, and he has amazing, unbiased, really awesome insight that I found to be very true, and I would check him out and give him a read. So, disclaimer, you can't sue me. I told you not to do that. A couple of the things that I do on kind of a day-to-day basis to keep myself healthy. I actually consume a clove of garlic and 4 to 5 grams of ginger every day. And essentially, ginger and garlic are natural antibiotics for the body, and the cells bacteria actually can't become resistant to them. That's the key. A lot of antibiotics are so prevalent nowadays, and a lot of times they're taken when they aren't needed. Really, antibiotics are only supposed to be used life-threatening situations, or obviously if you're going to lose a leg or something like that, then yes, you would want to take antibiotics, but they're overprescribed and overused to the point where bacteria can actually develop a resistance, and we're seeing a lot of more resistant bacteria to antibiotics. So what's amazing about ginger garlic is bacteria cannot become resistant to them. It's not like the modern medicine drugs that they can become resistant to. That's another thing I abide by too, is I will avoid using antibiotics pretty much at all costs. May not be the wisest decision always sometimes, and I still do use them when necessary. I had to use them recently. I had knee surgery and I had an infection in my knee, and I had to use antibiotics. I begrudgingly had to use them, because what happens when you take antibiotics is it essentially wipes your system, both good and bad. It kills the bad bacteria, but it wipes out all your good bacteria. It can actually set your immune system back several years. So typically, if you ever take antibiotics, you want to make sure that you get on a probiotic right away, or eat really healthy while you're taking the antibiotics and after, because you want to replenish that good gut bacteria, which is a major part of your immune system. And unfortunately, the side effect of antibiotics is it wipes all that out, good and bad, and it can harm you. And I notice, I don't have necessarily studied to back this up, but I notice that I have friends and family who use antibiotics frequently, and I notice that they are sick very often. And I do believe there's a correlation to them overusing antibiotics and now being sick more often because their immune system has been compromised due to the antibiotics. So it's something that, again, I would recommend research and look into and see if maybe there are situations where there are more natural ways of healing and you don't need to use antibiotics for something, because again, that's going to set everything back. So if you're someone that's consistently using antibiotics, you need to really do some research and look into maybe finding some alternate ways to heal, which I believe there are. A lot of companies will lead you to believe that modern medicine is the only way, but I have found evidence and evidence and evidence and evidence that that is not the case, that there are plenty of ways that your body can heal itself naturally. Okay, and there's so many little hacks. Like just today, I discovered that you can actually tilt your bed up 6 inches. It's called IBT. It's called, I forget what it's called now. Something bed. It's a therapy where this guy discovered basically from studying trees that because trees stand upright, that more dense sap from the top and less dense sap from the bottom actually mix due to gravity and actually circulate throughout the tree more effectively. And he wanted to see if that works in humans. If while we're sleeping, if we were slightly more at an angle that maybe it would increase our body's ability to circulate blood and circulate and be able to flush. Because essentially, what your body's doing when you're sleeping is it's flushing out toxins. It's using that time of rest to heal itself, to flush out toxins, to basically revamp everything. Okay, that's why you need sleep. That's why people who don't sleep get seriously screwed up really fast. Or people that oversleep and then develop insomnia and can't sleep get really screwed up. And apparently it works. It can cure different acid reflux things. People end up snoring isn't as big of an issue because again, gravity is allowing your body to circulate blood more efficiently. To there's waste from your brain that can actually be drained through. So I've actually tried it myself. I'm actually right now my bed is at a 4-degree incline. And the key is, so in the commercials, right? Like they show you the ones where you can manually raise it, right? But then the lower bottom stays the same. So you're almost at like a 90-degree angle. That's not, you want a full tilt. You want it to be straight. You still want it to be flat completely, but at a tilt. So I'm now at a 4-inch tilt on my bed, and I'm going to be sleeping in that the next week or so and seeing if that does cure or help me become a little bit healthier, because apparently there have been studies and people have gotten better with different ailments just by literally tilting their bed up 6 inches and allowing gravity to flush out, better circulate and flush out toxins in their body. So there is so much stuff like this, guys. There's so many little ways and little hacks and ways to do things naturally that you'll save money and you'll be a healthier person overall. And I can fully attest to that. And I'll throw out another cool thing, actually, I just remembered I wanted to share with you about fasting. I'm just going to jump back and do it real quick. So they've done studies on people who have cancer. And first of all, cancer cells actually can't burn fat. So when you are in a fasting state, it actually starves cancer cells because cancer cells can't use the fat. They use more of the glucose and those other things. Okay, so fasting, huge thing to keep your chance of cancer going down. Second thing, people who have cancer and have decided to fast before their chemo, about 2 days is the recommended, have actually found that they've been a lot more successful with treatment. And the reason this happens is, again, the cancer cells are starved during those 2 days before chemo. They are now in a state where they are more vulnerable to the chemotherapy. Now, your healthy cells will actually protect themselves. They'll actually line themselves with protection when you're in a fasting state, because they're realizing, okay, we're in a fasting state. We have less resources. We need to manage our resources better, and we need to keep ourselves protected, right? Your body just protecting itself. So now your healthy cells become stronger. Your cancer cells actually more vulnerable. So they've actually seen a lot higher success rates with people who fast before chemotherapy, at least 2 days, sometimes more. Okay, so if you have anyone who is currently has cancer and is using chemotherapy, please tell them this. Please have them research a little bit, talk to their doctor, and see if this is something that could benefit them, because studies have shown that this does work and this is beneficial, and could, I'm not saying it's going to cure cancer, but if it can help make the chemotherapy more effective, then I think it's something that needs to be absolutely looked at. So, the last thing I wanted to cover, and again, this is more, I've talked a lot about different physical things that you can not do or do in order to still be healthy and reduce kind of maybe unnecessary need, is meditation. And again, this is something that has had such a negative connotation to it, where people just assume it's sort of some sort of weird thing that religious people do. Like, oh, just that's weird, like hippie religious people meditate. But again, the science. And again, I will say this emphatically: the science supports meditation, the science supports fasting, the science supports the things that I'm talking about, and about natural healing methods. Okay, so this isn't some weird religious thing, this isn't some weird cult thing, this is pure science. Okay, and there's a reason why the Bible and different faiths incorporate meditation, because it works and it's effective for your mental health. It's essentially like you're going to the gym and you're building your body physically. Meditation is you building your mind mentally. And what meditation essentially is its focus. Is you're actively choosing to focus your mind on something. Okay, if you notice what happens a lot with people in their day-to-day is their mind jumps frantically, as if it's like a monkey that is just running around throwing feces, right? Like you just jump. Oh, you're thinking about tomorrow. Oh, you jump to yesterday. Oh, now this person's. Oh, and your mind's just jumping around like a crazy baboon. Okay, but what meditation does is it allows you to actively focus, to actively concentrate and keep your mind on one thing or one idea or a set of affirmations. There's a lot of ways to meditate. But again, the science backs this as something that really boosts your serotonin and your dopamine levels and helps to normalize them. And if you don't know, those are two brain chemicals that essentially make you happy, make you, which we all want to be happy. We all want to have an enjoyable life. And meditation can help you boost those levels to be a happier person and just to be able to be more disciplined mentally because of meditation is something I do on a pretty regular basis. And I found that now when a situation comes up that is difficult, that I can process it better. I can still continue to focus on positive things. Let's say as before when I was dealing with constant anxiety, let's say I would have like a what if thought pop into my head, like Tim, what if you get Alzheimer's, right? Whereas before I really started practicing meditation, I would now worry and worry about getting Alzheimer's for hours on end and just being in the state of fear and worry. Oh my gosh, I'm getting Alzheimer's, and I start freaking out. Whereas now I am able to like, oh, I noticed that thought. I can identify that thought, that what if I get Alzheimer's? And it's like, okay, well, I know it's just a thought. I know that that necessarily might not have evidence to it. It's just a thought. It's just my mind thinking about things. Okay, well, now I can process that. Now I can, okay, well, I don't know if that's true or not. It's probably not. It doesn't really have a lot of evidence. But now I'm going to focus my mind on something more positive. Instead, I'm going to alter my focus. Altering your focus, right? And that feeling of worry may not leave right away, right? I may not immediately feel less worried. But as I focus my mind on something else more positive, that feeling is going to slowly dissipate because I'm not just giving in. I'm not feeding that feeling. I'm not feeding that thought process. I'm now focusing my mind elsewhere on something more positive, and I can slowly work out of that emotion into an emotion that's more positive. Think of like a surfer, and you're surfing, and you are sort of riding out different waves of emotion, right? You feel really worried or scared or angry. You're riding that wave. You're not blocking that feeling. You're not trying to make that feeling go away. You're identifying that feeling. You're saying, okay, this is how I feel. And now you're saying, okay, well, either I need to do something about that situation or I'm going to alter my focus. I'm going to now focus on something more positive, and you'll slowly be able to ride that wave out to where it crests and subsides. And hopefully then a new wave comes up with a more positive emotion. And meditation allows you to do this. It allows you to alter your focus because what you focus on, what you choose to let yourself think about and perseverate over is what's going to run your life. And that's straight out of the Bible. That's straight out of Scripture. That what you allow yourself to think about will run your life. Okay, so again, meditation, it can be really fun too. There are a lot of little fun things you can do with meditation. I have quite a few different. I've actually developed my own mind palace. I don't know if any of you have ever watched Sherlock Holmes, but Sherlock Holmes talks about having a mind palace. And this is actually a true thing. If you look this up, this is actually a memory technique used by ancient Romans to memorize things. And the way it works is you like picture your house. You could probably literally mentally walk through your entire house right now because you've just been in it so much to where it's just ingrained in your memory. You know where the kitchen is. You could literally walk mentally through your own house. But now what you can do is you can plant memories within your house, maybe a picture or something on the wall of a photo, and mentally in your mind palace walk through that every day, and you'll remember these different things. And I've actually created, through the process of meditating and doing that, I've actually created my own mind palace to where I actually have this house that I've built and structured with rooms, and in the rooms are different things that I want to remember and keep memory of. And so I have a special room that I call the coping room. And the room itself I've modeled after one of the rooms that I had my group therapy in. And in that room are tables that run along the walls. And on those tables are each different meditation technique that I found to be really effective. So for example, on the first part of the table, there's a set of lungs, and those set of lungs represent breathing. And that's one major, if you're just looking to get into basic meditation, just sit down, get in a quiet spot, and focus on your breathing. Breathe in slow, out slow, in slow, out slow. And watch how your mind will try and jump to other things, and you just bring your mind back. Bring your mind back to the breath and breathing. And you'll find that you're able to more and more kind of focus and stay focused on the breathing and feeling the breath and listening to the breath, and your mind will be less jumpy the more you practice your focus, essentially, which is what meditation is. And next to that, I have a stone with a G on it, and that's what I call my gratitude stone. That's something I learned in group therapy, where whenever I'm going to use that technique, that's where I'm going to pick 5 or 10 things in my life that I'm grateful for. And gratefulness is, again, another really good hack and another really good thing to practice on a daily basis, because you'll learn to be more content, you'll learn to be less envious of other people, and you'll be able to enjoy what you have more. So usually if I'm going to do that technique, I'll pick 10 things. I'm thankful for the oxygen that I have around me. I'm thankful for the fact that I have 2 loving parents. I'm thankful for the fact that I have this body that has treated me well. I'm thankful for the friends that I have. And you'll find that as you practice gratefulness techniques more, you become happier, become more content, more being able to enjoy what you have instead of looking at what other people have and always being in a state of dissatisfaction and envious of what other people have. And again, I have the walls lined with all these different techniques, and now I can go into that room at any moment in my mind during my meditation and see all of these things that I've now memorized and can go to at any moment. And that's something that's been huge for me as somebody who has struggled with my mental health, to know that I have all these different techniques and all these different ways of focusing my mind on positive things at my disposal at any moment. And that's very freeing for me and exciting for me, and has allowed me to function better knowing I have that in my back pocket at any time. So again, meditation, again, basic. Get alone, set your phone timer for 5 to 10 minutes. Breathe. Focus on your breathing. In and out, in and out. And observe. Be an observer. Be a third-party observer of your mind. Oh wow, my mind, as I was trying to focus on my breathing, my mind actually thought about the test that I have next week. Okay, notice that. Now bring your mind back to the breath. And your mind's going to do it again. Your mind's going to jump. Oh, now you're thinking about something you said to someone the other day that you're like, crap, I shouldn't have said that. Oh, wow, that's interesting. My mind jumped to that. Okay, now I'm going to come back to the breath. And you'll notice as you keep coming back, you'll just become more aware of what your mind thinks about, where your mind goes, what you believe. And I'll probably go into another podcast soon about more specific about meditation and how to do it and some of the cool things that you can do with it. And just build your mental muscle. Build it. And that can help you heal physically as well as mentally and emotionally from scars of the past, from different traumas emotionally. Meditation can really benefit you. So I would highly recommend that. So essentially, I know I've talked a lot, but I wanted to give you guys information. I wanted to give you guys the stuff that I've researched and learned over these last 3 years, and how I've been able to become a happier, healthier person and be able to take on more responsibility and enjoy my life more. And I want you guys to do and experience the same. And I want people to not have to take 8 different types of medications to feel okay. I remember one group therapy session I had. I was talking to my therapist, and I just asked her, I'm like, on average, like how many medications does somebody who comes to see you, how many do they take? She said 8. I thought, what? No. 8 different medications? That's not okay. Like that should not be okay. Okay? Because the body, we don't need that. And I'm just very passionate about that. And that's why I've been so dedicated to figuring out how the body can heal itself. How your body, so many of these common ailments that we deal with, so many of these common issues that we deal with, how can we do so without taking extra drugs that have extra side effects? How can we do that without ingesting extra chemicals into our body or putting extra chemicals on our skin that are harming us? How does the body do it naturally? And that's something that I'm really very passionate about, and hope that as time goes on, I'll be able to educate more and more people, as well as get smarter myself on how to do that so that people can just be happier and healthier. Yeah. So hopefully you've listened to the end of this podcast. Hopefully you've learned something. Hopefully you are maybe interested in trying some of these things that I've talked about on ways to reduce your consumption and to help tap into your body's own ability to heal emotionally, mentally, physically. Um, and there'll be more. I'll do more podcasts like this. I'll specifically probably do one about fasting. I'll specifically do one about meditation because those are really two big things. And even honestly, like I was just reading an article yesterday about Jaylen Brown, who's a shooting guard for the Boston Celtics, and he talked about how he fasts and he meditates. So this isn't a weird thing. This is something that athletes do. This is something that plenty of normal people do, and it's not a weird religious cult thing. Okay, this is something that's it's really good for your brain and your body, just to take time to slow down and heal. And our society today is very fast paced, and sometimes we need to slow down. All right, well, I will leave you with that. And if you have any questions, comments, please comment. If you want any more information about any of these topics, please feel free to contact me. I love talking about it. I'll let you know how my experiment with the bed tilting goes, and if that improves my sleep or improves anything else, I will let you know. But anyway, this has been Topics with Tim, how your body can heal itself, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Have a good one.